Hey everyone, it's DM Captain Obvious here on chess.com playing against an old friend of mine. Uh, Iwillsacmyqueen. We're going to be playing a 30-minute with no increment game. Um, this guy actually is largely responsible for most of what I learned about chess in the beginning. Even though I knew how the pieces moved back in high school, we played against each other quite a bit and have continued to play through the years. His rating is not reflective of his real rating or how strong he is. I have a negative record against him, I'm pretty sure, um, online and over the board. So this is going to be a tough game. Um, I'm excited for it though. Additionally, chess.com recently came out with a update to their analysis feature. So I'm going to be running that after the game as well. So that should be good fun. Okay, so he is going to let me damage his pawn structure if he wants, but I'm not sure that that's necessarily good. It gives him quite the grip on e5. c5 is kind of the freeing move that this position would want. I could always chicken out and play like c3 as well. Just a very stable, sturdy opening here. What to do? What to do? Do I want to take that bishop is the big question. I don't think I do, honestly. So what about c5 versus c6? Is there anything I need to be aware of? I think after c5 cx, am I at all worse? I don't think so. Bishop takes. Does my bishop belong on c5 is the question. I think I'm going to go for that. I don't necessarily know if this is the best square for my bishop as of right now, but I don't want to give him a stranglehold on the e5 square. I think this is just going to be pretty simple. So he doesn't take. He's playing very solidly. A lot of our games have ended with one of us swindling the other with some kind of cheap tactic. Hopefully we can, well, at least I hope that I avoid that sort of fate this game. These positions can liven up in just a heartbeat. So with the C file opening up, does that benefit me in any way? If I take C takes D4, I'm not sure if I have to enable drawing arrows on chess.com. It's been a while since I, haha, so it is. Is there anything else I need to... It's been a while since I've played on the live server for chess.com. So now can I? Haha, now I can. Very cool. Okay. I think I just want to develop. There's no reason not to put my knight on c6. I don't think taking leads to anything necessarily. I would prefer him to take if it comes to that. I also could consider if pawn takes pawn, bishop takes bishop, and temporarily. Well, no, because then he has b4. I don't really like that. It's just a pretty sturdy, stable structure for both of us. He's got some pretty direct plans here. Maybe even he tries to facilitate. Maybe he actually plays something like this and tries to facilitate an e4 pawn push. That also makes a good amount of sense. Sometimes in these positions you can actually leverage a timely c4 to disrupt white, depending on where he puts his queen as well. That's something he does need to be aware of. But we just continue getting our pieces active. I think that I actually will trade the bishop now. I know that it gives him quite the sturdy hole on e5, but I don't like this plan for him to be able to break in the center using his e-pawn, and I'm less concerned about an f5 pawn break. I think this position is just very equal now, and we can trade here and see if we can straddle him with an isolated d-pawn, which we do. So that's good. Where do I want to put my queen? I can posture against the f-pawn, but I don't think that that actually leads to anything. He just plays g3, and he's very solid. The other things I can do is play queen a5, but I guess he just could play knight b3, and it's kind of a wasted move. I don't see a tremendous value for my queen coming to b6. He still answers that with knight b3. If I put my queen on c7, I'm hitting the f-pawn still, but I'm potentially running into some pins here after rook c1. The thing about putting my queen on d6, though, is that after his knight comes to e5, I cannot capture because there would then be a fork on my queen and my knight. I could also try something with a6, maybe? I don't really like a6, to be honest. Seems a little slow, and I don't really want my bishop on b7. I could also try to play rook b8 and launch this pawn up the board. But he always has this idea of bringing a knight to c5, where it would be very strong. So I might want to hold the idea of playing b6 in reserve to watch over that square. I think with it all being said, I would rather deal with a knight on e5 than the long pin with the rook on c1 opposite of my queen. So we'll go ahead and play queen d6 and see if he wants to play knight b3 and then knight into c5. Or if he's going to play something like rook e1 or rook c1. He could obviously look to drop his knight in right now. Also g3 is also a very good move. So he has a lot of options here. I don't see a tremendous value in connecting his rooks right now. His queen, I don't think his queen needs to declare to any of the squares available to her. I think much better is figuring out, so g3, a very sturdy move. Falling in line with just how he's been playing this whole game, just very, very steady, very solid. I guess I'll just play bishop d7, and then we'll look at how he plays in terms of if we want to start launching pawns up the board, maybe. Cancel that. That's not a pre-move I want to make. If he wants to launch pawns up the board, or if he wants to just continue to gradually improve. And yeah, he does want to bring his knight to c5. That's very logical. I might actually want to play knight b4 right now to hit his light square bishop. If he drops all the way back to b1, which I suspect he would, there might be some slight tempo gain for me, where if he tries to play a3 to kick my knight, he has to move his bishop again to activate his rook, presuming he doesn't want his rook on a1, but rather c1. That's assuming a lot, though. He doesn't have to go for that. Is there any value in other moves? I don't see anything happening with my king's knight. I could put a rook on c8, but then after his knight comes to c5, he's just looking to trade his knight for my bishop, if potentially. Although I wouldn't. That knight on c5 is much better than my bishop on d7. So let's go ahead and see if we can get his bishop to go all the way back to b1. right now, because he hasn't moved one of his rooks, he's either trapping this rook momentarily, and because he hasn't played rook e1, he can't bring his bishop to this lovely g2 square where it would act as a super king's defender. So now's the moment, I think, to play knight b4 and really start asking him if his pieces are where he wants them to be. And then we can put a rook on c8 or play b6 as needed. It's still a very even position. Maybe black has the slightest of edges, but I could also just be optimistic here. There's a lot to like about white's position. So yeah, there's still a few different plans. He doesn't have to move his bishop, of course. He could play something, like rook a c1 and ask if I really want to move my knight. No, I know he can't. Rook a c1 drops his a pawn. That would be silly. So he doesn't really have time for that. So this is letting me know with bishop e2 rather than bishop b1, rather than keeping his bishop on an attacking square, he is looking to likely shuffle his pieces and get to a nice protected point on g2, I would think. But this now, I think now I'm going to make his life kind of nasty, because he wants to play knight c5 at some point, and this pin is very annoying. There's no way to kick this bishop, and I can always, if his queen strays, take the knight and sabotage his pawns and try to navigate to an ending where I'm playing against isolated doubled pawns and another isolated d-pawn. His queen side would be pretty wrecked, and because one of his pawns is doubled here as well on the king side, it would be very difficult for him to make progress before I could. So this kind of this is a very difficult move, I think, long term for white to handle. I definitely have ideas of getting a favorable ending. I think a3 might be. No, it's probably fine. I think it's probably fine. Yeah. Okay, so this is still quite annoying. Maybe he was worried about some idea where I play queen b6 and then move the knight and have a double attack. I'm not entirely sure. But this is a fine move. It sends my knight back to from whence it came. And this pin is still very annoying for him. What more is he does have to watch out for this d-pawn. Say he tries to play knight e5. Again, the queen is starting to have a lot of responsibilities. So he does step out of the pin. That just makes a great amount of sense. So we'll go ahead and start controlling some squares as well. Potentially playing bishop b5, looking at some kind of tactic potentially, or at least getting the light square bishops off. This could become favorable to me if I can remove the light square bishops, because he has fianchettoed and he has this nice f-pawn, but in spite of his great control over the dark squares around the king, his light squares are open, so I would be happy to trade these two pieces. Let me just double check something here. Yep, looks good. Everything looks like it's coming through nice and clear. Okay. So what to do for white? I imagine he's going to play rook f c1. The reason he wants to play rook f c1 is to start looking to control this open file where the play is going to tilt. Additionally, getting the rook off of this line it can't hurt to sidestep any tactics that might arise. Additionally, if I allow him the time to play bishop f1 and bishop g2, he can prevent. Okay, so he decides to put his a rook there. That's also probably fine. I might actually do what he didn't. and I'm going to transfer some power from my king side over to the queen side. I think play is going to heat up over here. So I think that his rook might end up being slightly misplaced. Probably nothing major. There's probably no way to actually take advantage of it, but I think that it might be better to transfer some power over here to the queen side. Okay. So he does plop his knight in. Well, obviously knight takes knight is no good, as I get forked after the pawn recapture. So, one thing to keep in mind is he did remove a defender of d4. So, something like bishop takes, queen takes, knight takes looks pretty good. I don't know if he missed this, because I don't necessarily see a follow-up after rook takes rook, rook takes rook. Oh, wow. He's just going right in for this. Am I missing something? I think this is just a bit of a miscalculation. I think after he played knight e5, he just hadn't considered that he had weakened the d4 point. Unless I'm missing something, but I don't think I am. I don't think he should trade rooks either. I think he should accept that he dropped a pawn here and play queen d3. He doesn't have time for queen, yeah. And now I can actually pick up that light square bishop if I'd like, which I do like to do that. And now I just have a comfortable edge. It's probably not yet winning, but we're very close. He still has this great knight. I could challenge it, but I don't want to. I think my knight could actually also be quite the bother to him. This d-pawn is massive now. It is a massive d-pawn. As pieces come off, it only will become stronger. Yeah, so let's go ahead and threaten doubling our rooks. At this point, because his queen is on e2, he wouldn't have rook takes and then rook c1. So I would maintain control of this file. He might play something like queen d2, and then I double rooks, and then he decides to trade, and we can trade down. And then he might see if I can prove that this pawn is decisive, or we get into some kind of queen knight ending, where being a pawn up might not be enough. But I think right now it's pretty clear that I hold all the cards. Oh, okay, so he chooses to do it this way, which is also fine. I'm going to still double my rooks, and then he will double his rooks, and we can trade everything down. He would be controlling the file in that case, so I don't want to be the one that blinks. When everything is lined up on an open file in these sorts of pawn structures, you definitely don't want to be the person, not always, but in general, you don't want to be the person taking first. It's kind of like a staring contest, and taking first tends to be the one that blinks. So you want to be the one that when the dust settles, you have control over the open file and where the play is. So we're just going to put our knight on a good square, and this is a weakness now. Queen b6 is perhaps actually a bit difficult for him. Because now my knight is gonna get very jumpy very fast, and I really like where this position has gone for me. I do need to be a little sensitive about f7 in certain positions down the line, so long as the knight is here. But I don't see a tremendous amount of play. Wow. Knight d7. How about that? Wow. So his point is that if rook takes, he just takes my rook on c8, and I am lost. So what are my other options? Queen b5, I guess? And then he doesn't have rook takes rook because okay, so I this is flashy, but maybe it's a blunder. Queen b5 hits his queen and his king is in line with her. So he doesn't have rook takes rook because I have queen takes queen with check and there's no longer a rook guarding the queen. Um, Queen b6, queen takes queen. I then play rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, and then I recapture here and I'm a clean rook up. So I think he's just lost. And this piece is of course under fire. But this is now over, I believe. I unless I'm missing something. Uh-oh. Is he having internet issues? Am I having internet issues? No, it says I'm fine. Well, hopefully he reconnects here. Oh yeah, he's got some lag going on. Okay. I hope he can reconnect shortly here. And then we'll take a look at the game using the analysis feature afterwards. I really like what chess.com did for their new analysis feature. It's got a lot of cool bells and whistles attached, and we'll go over some of them. Even though I don't generally play on chess.com's live server, I do like to use chess.com for its study tools. I've been a premium member with them for a long time, and if you're looking to improve your chess, I would recommend picking up a membership with them. There's just a lot of really relevant stuff that the website offers that's very good. Gonna let him know I'm going to the analysis board. And is there, all right, nice win. You were never in trouble. That's nice. Let's go to analyze. Now, does this work the same way in live chess or will it take us, okay, it will take us here. Cool. So let's go ahead and run a report. Okay, so there's a couple moments that it looks like the engine preferred White's plans. Never so much, but maybe there's some improvements in the opening we can do. And yeah, and then he just drops his D pawn and then he compounds that later on here with a full piece. But let's go ahead and take a look. So this is, I really like this feature. We have a breakdown, no brilliancies for us, but that's fine. Very accurate score from both of us. How about that? Very solid opening, very balanced. He's texting me. Yeah, his sister is over with friends and they're all eating up bandwidth, which was his internet issues and probably somewhat distracting. We're both also invested in March Madness, which is going on right now, college basketball here in the United States. So we're riding on our team advancing to the round of 32 right now. But back to chess. So we actually deviated from book pretty quick. Let's go ahead and turn off the computer lines for now. So we see here this new feature for chess.com lets us know that we're still in book. And now I believe we leave book. So it doesn't like bd6. This has been a pet line of mine. I've used over the board to some good results. If bishop takes bishop, I'm happy to actually take with the c pawn. That pawn controls both these plans where the knight is trying to get to c5, and of course this knight wants to be on e5, so it inhibits white from some of the typical plans, which is something I like. Additionally, sometimes, as we saw in this game, trading the bishops is quite good. Every now and then, if white wastes time with bishop g3, it's not always beneficial for white. If I don't capture on g3, and then he's just kind of wasting moves, or not wasting, but he's spending time moving a bishop around that's not doing anything to improve his position. So I do like bishop d6 here, although as we see c5 immediately is considered best. which does make some sense because it does again lead to positions where if capturing, now I haven't spent time myself coming to d6 just to come to c5. Um, I don't think that captures, of course, is what would be played in these positions. White has a plethora of options, and this is very known as well. But back to the game. So, yeah, everything is very solid here. Doesn't love c5. This is one of the second hills where we see the evaluation go back up to almost half a pawn. But I think that this is very much playable. Perhaps him. I'm not sure if taking is any good here, though. I do think that here just dx c5 and then bishop takes is fine for me. But I guess this is what I had expected in the game. And look at that, it's giving me alternate moves as well. That's pretty nifty. Anyways, so instead he decided to play a little more passively but solid. And I don't think he ever got time to organize his ideal structure. I was quicker to get to c8. Yeah, so knight b3 does... it's a move that you want to play in a lot of these structures. Again, getting the knight to c5 is generally very good. That being said, here it gets in the way a little bit, and I think that we're able to punish this again with bishop a4, which we talked about in the game. This is just kind of annoying, and he's never finding the time to get his pieces to the squares that they want to be on because of this. And that loss of time starts to stand out. Yeah, this is already dubious. As mentioned, removing the eyes of the knight from d4 just drops the pawn, and it's not winning decisively, but it is very, very much better for black, and it's hard not to imagine a situation where I can convert this position against most players. It's just not a pleasant one to be white here. There's not a tremendous amount of play. Ooh, this is not good. Oh, well, it says it's excellent. It's not saying it's terrible, but queen b6. It already wants queen b6, huh? It's not really a large difference in evaluation. I don't think that that's... Oh, well, maybe it wants queen b6 so that after knight e4 it can't be met with f3, and the knight stays on e4. That's pretty interesting. I'm not sure that there's a huge difference there, because he can still play knight g2 and f3. That's interesting. In any case, so we double up and we get our staring contest. Knight e4, yet another move where it proposes queen d8. That doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm not going to look at that one, to be honest. It's not enough for me to worry about, and I'm not going to put my queen on d8. That's silly. So, I mean, I should give it some more credit. I should look at it, but I'm not going to right now. Maybe later. f3, yeah, that's fine. And yeah, I felt like f3 lashing out. Queen b6 felt very strong. And now we are close to decisive. And here we just see a flashy move, but a blunder. I can't take the knight. If I take the knight, and then I'm simply losing. Wait a minute. No, I have rook d8 at the end. Well, I'm not dead lost, per se, but... This is definitely not as good as what I played. I thought I was just lost here, but I do have rook d8. I stopped looking at this line pretty quickly because it was clear why he wanted it. This is still not trivial, this position, though. It's definitely should be enough for black to win, but I mean, anytime the queens are still there, you have to be cognizant of perpetual checks. Sometimes it's easy to drop a loose pawn. It's just, I think that the combination of his king being a little more airy and this d pawn being very strong should be enough for me to win this one without too much difficulty, but I'm glad that I didn't go for that. Obviously, as we calculated in the game, with queen b6 sidestepping this, there is no longer any cohesion for white's pieces because of king g2. I don't know if king g1 or king h1 was objectively better earlier because of this. You know, something like king h1, this, and then this. Still a blunder, still same thing, I imagine. Well, actually, no, I can just take on c2, and if takes, then takes with check, and then the king has to step up, and then I take. So no, it doesn't make a difference. This is just not a move that is playable. Knight d7 is just not playable. It didn't make a difference where the king went in this one. Yeah. Even so, just trading the rooks and playing from a worse position, I think makes a lot of sense here. I mean, it's never something you want to do, but the pawn was dropped. There's no way to get it back. You just try to hold and create problems and tricks. But with this move, rook takes is met with queen takes queen with check. And if we have queen takes, we simply can play check. And then, assuming takes, we take. And only then do we recapture and we're a clean piece up. So there's where my buddy started having some internet difficulty, but the game was effectively over. So again, we have this cool little report feature, highly accurate game from both of us. I think just it was swung by those two big mistakes. Dropping the d pawn, of course, made the position unpleasant, and then of course dropping a piece is game over. Another cool thing in here I want to say, oh yeah, so we have some, this isn't entirely fair. It's based on the ratings, I think, this pre-game win prediction and his rating of 1650 in Rapid Online here, that's not anywhere reflective of his true skill. In fact, he actually had a higher percentage of best moves than me. But those blunders hold him back in the differential. We get a nice little breakdown of the book moves when we left the book, and just a breakdown of the middle game as well. And if we had got to the end game, we would have another little section breakdown right there as well. So, pretty cool feature. Update here from chess.com. Good game to my buddy Iwillsacmyqueen. He didn't get to sack his queen on this one in a profitable way. But I guess technically, if he had played rook takes and allowed me to play queen takes e2, he would have lived up to that username. All right, hope you enjoyed the video and the game. Good luck with your chess, and have a great rest of your day.